Today's video is sponsored by Unlucky Stars. Commemorate a special time in your life or the life of a loved one with a personalized star map. More on them in a bit. In 2005, the US government and its private contractors finished assembling a floating radar system called Sea-Based X-band radar in Ingleside, Texas. One problem, though, is that the system was designed for use in the Pacific, with its initial deployment for testing being in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. That's 15,000 miles away by a sea journey that would require it going all the way around South America. That's, by the way, in total 24,000 kilometers, or around nearly 3/4 of the circumference of the Earth. Or a really long ass way. Plus, the fully assembled system weighed roughly 50,000 short tons, that's 45 million kilograms. For reference, the Boeing 747-400 passenger plane has a takeoff weight of only about 440 tons. It's the only time we'd ever say only for 440 tons. So, how exactly do you support something heavier than 100 jumbo jets to the other side of the world? That job fell to MV Blue Marlin, a semi-submersible heavy lift ship owned and operated at the time by the Dutch company Dockwise. After carrying the massive floating radar system through the Strait of Magellan in December 2005, it reached Pearl Harbor on January 9th, 2006. Blue Marlin has carried other impressive cargo as well. After the American naval-guided missile destroyer USS Cole was damaged in a terrorist bombing in 2000, Blue Marlin carried it from Aden, Yemen, back home to Mississippi. In 2004, it carried Thunder Horse, an oil production rig weighing a whopping 60,000 metric tons from its assembly point in South Korea to the Gulf of Mexico, where it now operates. And Blue Marlin is not the only heavy lift ship out there, nor is it the largest or even most powerful. These impressive vessels are essentially parts of the world economy, transporting massive industrial facilities and other ships that would otherwise be immovable. But the question we want to ask in today's video is, well, how do they actually do it? The ancestor of modern heavy lift ships is often considered to be the SS Lichtenfels, built by Deutsche Schiff- und Maschinenbau. Oh my god, Germany, why are the words so long? Aktiengesellschaft, also known as Deutsche Mark, in Bremen, Germany in 1929 for the German shipping company DDG Hanse, and we're sure DDG stands for something really, really long as well. It was designed to transport fully assembled locomotive engines from Europe to India, and it had a total dead weight of 11,000 metric tons, meaning this was the maximum amount of total weight that it could carry. The SS Lichtenfels was roughly 160 meters in length, that's 525 feet, almost the length of 2 football fields. European or American, take your pick, they both work. It used a 3-cylinder steam engine to power a single propeller at 5,100 psi, rotating it at 74 RPM. This is enough to push the ship up to 13.7 knots or almost 16 miles per hour, about the same speed as actually modern heavy lift ships. There hasn't been a ton of progress when it comes to speed, apparently. Perhaps the most innovative part of the Lichtenfels were its booms. These are the cranes that were used to load the locomotives or other cargo onto the ship, which eliminated the need for cranes on the docks. Now, the main boom weighed 120 metric tons, that's about 265,000 pounds, but there were 21 in total, including one weighing 30 metric tons, another weighing 15, and 18 booms weighing 5 metric tons each. Locomotives weren't the only thing that Lichtenfels carried, though. Elephants from India were another common part of the cargo. Really? Plus, the ship could carry a crew of 74 as well as 12 passengers. During World War II, Nazi Germany sent the SS Lichtenfels to the Red Sea along with a number of other merchant marine ships. In 1941, as the British threatened to retake that area, Germany scuttled the ship to blockade Massawa Harbor in Eritrea. It was then ultimately raised in 1950, but it was used for scrap. Since then, there have been considerable innovation and advancements in the heavy lift ship design. Specifically, heavy lift ships are now divided into 4 different categories. Okay, now we'll get back to today's video in just a second, but first a quick word from a brand new sponsor, Unlucky Stars. Unlucky Stars make beautiful personalized star maps that show the unique alignment of the stars in a place and time that you choose. Check this out. I got one of these, mate. They're the original map makers, and they've got a proprietary technology for mapping the stars in the universe. That isn't reflecting or anything, is it? Is that going to be okay? Can you see my giant light in here? It's printed on super high quality matte paper. You guys can't see this properly, but I'm sure there's some B-roll, and it just looks super nice. The framing is also beautiful, which matters a great deal. At least to me, I think frames really make a big difference. How does it work? All you have to do is enter the location, the time, and the date, and it's printed down here. This is actually a gift from my wife. That's when we got married, and where, and at exactly what time. And that's what the stars looked like above us at that moment. It was actually day, so we couldn't see them, but same thing. Now, if you're a quick thinker, you probably realize that Valentine's Day is around the corner, and this is a home-run gift idea. You should get one of these for the loved one in your life. Honestly, especially if you're a bit of a last-minute person, I absolutely am. And it's also kind of nice that Under Lucky Stars took care of this for me this year. I won't tell my wife that it's a sponsorship. But it's a brilliant idea. If someone had told me about this, I would have got it myself. It's just... it's easy, it's personalized, and guess what? You can get 10% off. Don't tell your wife or girlfriend or husband or boyfriend, look, whatever. Whoever you want to get this for. It doesn't have to be Valentine's Day. Someone, get this as a gift for them. It's brilliant. 10% off this Valentine's Day. Head to underluckystars.com/megaprojects and use the code megaprojects to get your loved one a gift they won't forget. Now, back to today's video. Project cargo carriers are arguably the most similar to the original Lichtenfels ship. These ships are not especially different from standard cargo ships, but they're designed to be able to handle loads and cargo that might not fit into the standard intermodal containers that can be easily stacked and arranged on other ships, those are the containers that you're incredibly familiar with. This is termed project cargo, and it usually means large goods or machinery that's important to heavy industry. Most notably, since project cargo carriers doesn't fit into the intermodal containers, dock cranes are usually incapable of lifting it and placing it onto the ship. Therefore, these heavy lift ships have their own cranes. They got one on either end, which moves the project cargo from the dock onto the ship's low, flat deck. Now, the two cranes must be located on the same side of the ship, either port or starboard, to adequately lift the cargo. But if you ever try to lift a cooler into your canoe, you know just how unstable this can make a boat. As a result of this, project cargo carriers have these elaborate ballast systems that must be operated with a lot of precision to balance the ship perfectly, ultimately allowing the cranes to lift with 4 times the power of standard deck cranes. Open deck cargo ships are perhaps the simplest type of heavy lift ship, but that doesn't mean that they aren't capable of hauling massive cargo. They feature low, long, flat decks of up to 300 meters, that's nearly 1,000 feet, bookended by the ship's fore and stern, but there aren't any walls on either side. This allows them to carry cargo that's just too wide to fit on standard cargo ships like large cranes, industrial vehicles, construction equipment, and even other boats like yachts and ferries. At the bow of the ship, there is a tall superstructure that houses just about all of the ship's operations, including the bridge, the galley, and the crew cabins. The main deck is then much lower down and much closer to the water level. Because it's so low, but also must support such heavy cargo, this deck must be supported from beneath by a tough web of metal framing. Additionally, the deck must be strong enough to support the ballast tanks and the marine shafts which run from the engine to the propellers. Now, open deck cargo ships have a kind of catch-22 in that the superstructure at the ship's bow provides more room for the engines, but this makes the marine shafts much, much longer and more prone to vibration, which could damage the deck or indeed its cargo. In other words, the metal framing of the main deck must be strong enough to support the engines or the vibrations of the marine shafts. It's one or the other. The other primary obstacle for open deck cargo ships is loading and unloading. Considering their cargo often includes cranes themselves, they can't be loaded or unloaded with dock booms. Instead, the cargo is rolled, towed, or otherwise slid onto the deck, which must be lined up level with the dock. But of course, these massive ships weigh tens of thousands of tons, and they can't just be floated up to the dock. Instead, there are elaborate tethering systems used, and some of the ships have ramps that help cargo be rolled on and off. As the name suggests, a dock ship is essentially a floating mobile dock. There's a superstructure at the bow that has the bridge and crew quarters, while the rest is a submersible deck with walls on the port and starboard sides. The main deck can then be lowered down into the sea so the water floods in, which is held in by the walls on either side. Cargo then be floated in through the opening in the stern. Now, once inside the walls of the dock ship, the deck is raised by pumping out its ballast water and removing the water on the deck. As you probably guess, dock ships are primarily used for moving other marine vessels. Specifically, they're used to move, repair, and maintain other boats, even allowing access to parts that would normally be underwater, like propellers and the marine shafts. Not only are they considerably cheaper than dry docks on land, but they're conveniently mobile. If you've got a badly damaged ship, you don't have to come to a dock. Indeed, in this case, the dock can just come to you. Handy. Semi-submersible vessels are what many have come to think of when they imagine heavy lift ships. They're shaped similarly to open-deck cargo ships, with a tall superstructure at the bow and a long, low, flat deck behind. However, unlike open-deck cargo ships, their main decks can be submerged below the surface of the water. Using advanced ballast systems, semi-submersible vessels can take in water to increase their draft and sink into the sea. Once the main deck is below the surface, the cargo is floated into position over it. Then pumps remove the ballast water, causing the ship to float back up, lifting the cargo with it, really quite similar to how the previous ship works. These semi-submersible heavy lift ships are used to transport massive structures that you'd otherwise think would just have to be built on location. For example, they often carry oil rigs, floating factories, other cargo, or naval ships, and things like the sea-based X-band radar. The ship we mentioned at the beginning, the MV Blue Marlin, is an example of a semi-submersible heavy lift ship, and with a total dead weight of over 76,000 metric tons and a length of 225 meters, it was for a time the largest semi-submersible ship. However, in 2011, the Blue Marlin's owners, the Dutch shipping company Dockwise Shipping BV, decided they needed a bigger boat and ordered the Vanguard, which has been the current title holder since its launch back in 2012. Vanguard is the industry leader and arguably the most technologically advanced heavy lift ship in existence. It has a displacement, basically the weight of the ship, of over 91,000 metric tons and has a total deadweight carrying capacity of nearly 117,000 metric tons. That's more than 10 times what its ancestor, the SS Lichterfels, could carry. At 275 meters, or 902 feet long, its deck is 70% larger than Blue Marlin's. That's a serious upgrade. Vanguard produces 28,500 kilowatts of total power. That's over 38,000 horsepower, about the power of 75 semi-truck engines. This is provided by two Wärtsilä engines running at 8,700 kilowatts each, and two more running at 4,350 kilowatts each, turning two propellers with controlled pitch that can move the ship at upwards of 14.5 knots, or almost 70 miles per hour. It also has two 3,000 kilowatt retractable azimuth thrusters and one 3,000 kilowatt bow thruster. Vanguard also has 50% more lifting capacity than the Blue Marlin, thanks to a powerful ballasting system. The four main ballast pumps can push out 5,300 cubic meters per hour. That's nearly 1.5 million gallons, or well over 2 Olympic swimming pools. Another pump pushes out 1,500 cubic meters per hour, while two stripping pumps eliminate 400 cubic meters per hour, and two stripping ejectors eliminate 300 cubic meters per hour. This lifting capacity is helping Vanguard to set a lot of records. In 2020, it made news when it transported FPSO P70, a floating production, storage, and offloading unit weighing over 91,000 tons from Qingdao, China to Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, via the Cape of Good Hope in South Africa. An FPSO is a massive vessel similar to an oil tanker that can produce, store, and transport oil and other hydrocarbons. It was the heaviest cargo ship ever carried by a semi-submersible heavy lift ship. Vanguard was designed by Dockwise and Finnish company Delta Marin. They were built by Hyundai Heavy Industries in South Korea. It cost roughly $240 million and was funded by the Dutch bank ABN AMRO, the Royal Bank of Scotland, and Deutsche Bank. Then, in 2003, the Dutch company Rob Oscalis Westminster NV acquired Dockwise, eventually putting their logos and name on the now Boca Vanguard. Not only that, but they decided they were going to take heavy lifting to the next level. In 2014, they began looking at the possibility of building an even bigger vessel, one that would be capable of carrying Vanguard itself. A ship to carry the ship that carries ship. It's some sort of shipception. In the meantime, Vanguard continues operating in Boskalis' fleet of 11 semi-submersible heavy lift ships that also include Blue Marlin and its sister Black Marlin. Before it gets dethroned, let's hope it finally finds a cargo heavy enough to max out its unbelievable 117,000 metric tons of deadweight carrying power. So I really hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please do utilize that like button below. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you've got a suggestion for a future Mega Projects video, please do leave it in the comments and have a look down there. Upvote the ones you like, as those are the videos that I tend to make. It's how it works around here. As always, thank you for watching.